Hi, I'm here with John Steinert. He's the CMO of TechTarget. John and I have talked before about intent data and account-based marketing. John, what trends are you seeing right now with intent tying it to account-based marketing from a TechTarget perspective?
I think we should take a step back and say, can we define what purchase intent data is? And I'm very strict about that. I have to be as a CMO. I define purchase intent data as data that helps you see purchases in process, that helps you anticipate purchases that are impending. And to do that, you have to have visibility not only into accounts, but you have to know what content is being consumed, and you have to be able to see the teams that are involved in a purchase, right down to the individuals that comprise those teams. So when we say real purchase intent, what we mean is data that actually show who is involved in an impending deal. We know they're in an impending deal because we can see what they're consuming, and what we know exactly what is in what they're consuming because we built that content, so that we know that that content was built precisely to aid companies in making purchases, right? So the content is built to help support buyers as they try to find out how to solve their business problems. Now compare that to the ABM situation and what practitioners are trying to do with ABM. So for me, ABM is all about generating higher revenues from a distinct set of accounts. So you start with an account list, and you build that list based on some algorithm that you have inside your company. It's companies that we want to do business with, probably not the best idea. Companies that we can do business with, that's a good one. Companies that we've historically succeeded with. And then you apply resource to operationalizing that. You say, we did $1 million last year, we want to do $1.2 million this year from this particular company. How are we going to get that done? It is too general to say that we're simply going to do more marketing and more selling and hope. We have to do something else different. And this gets to, what are we trying to operationalize? What we're trying to operationalize is a better connection to that company. And in order to achieve the better connection, we've got to have a better understanding of that company. And where we come in is that the first point of understanding is this company actively looking for a solution to a business problem? So, if your operationalization is to use a list of names at that company, you have no answer about whether that company is now receptive and in need of your sales attention.
Got it.
So that's the standard process that is now currently so popular with high velocity outbound.
What about going one layer deeper? And this is good information that you're giving. One layer deeper on the operationalizing of intent. A lot of our clients are wrestling with the concept of, okay, I get intent data, well, how do I use it? Like, what do I use it for? And certainly prioritizing accounts is one way of using it, but how are you seeing companies, your clients and others in the industry really taking that extra step to make it useful for them to digest?
So I think that's why I wanted to really talk about the ABM use case, because I think that intent, like so many other things in our industry, has been confused as something that powers advertising. And advertising among marketers' tools is certainly very important, but in terms of its connection to the revenue engine, it's kind of distant. So advertising is good. That's a great use of intent data, whether you have account information or more than that. But when it gets down to really turning that into revenue, you've got to talk about how you're going to operationalize sales teams. And in order to operationalize sales teams are account fueled, but inside the account, it's the people who open the door to revenue. And unless you have the opted in prospects who are exhibiting this behavior, you have a really hard time operationalizing this information for the sales team. So that's what we try to help with. We have the opt-in individuals, and we try to make all the processes to using that information a lot easier. By doing that, the sales team is enabled to be much more cognizant of what the customer's needs are and deliver a better customer experience when they do outbound, because they know what the competition is that the customer might be looking at, who they're comparing themselves to, what the specific solution needs are, who exactly is involved in the buying team, and they can tailor their outreach to that. So that's very much to us an ABM story, but it's also a CX story.
How about the SDRs and the role of SDRs and operationalizing intent? Like even with TechTarget, whether the SDRs work for you or not, where do you see their role in intent overall in any company of any size?
So I think the SDR role is a very hard one, and it's a wonderful place to start your career. As a smart SDR, you have this real challenge of how do you balance the need to process volume, which we all know is an essential part of the activity, and the desire to deliver quality. So what we're working so hard on is how do you get the core elements that will help an SDR do better outreach into their hands? Is it through sales enablement? Is it direct into their sales execution software? All those kinds of things. So if you're going to put it into sales execution software, to take advantage of real purchase intent, you got to make sure that the cadences are built to take advantage of it. So there's the sales enablement component. The SDRs have to be counseled on the differential value of this information. It's not going to happen automatically. So you need wisdom in the management team of the SDRs. But once they see the difference and they get used to using what's on their screen, they get much, much better.
Yeah, we've talked about that before, the role of SDRs and how important they are in the career trajectory or the future leaders maybe in SDRs. Last question, we're here in sunny Scottsdale, Arizona. Do you miss Boston, or do you prefer this weather?
It's very weird, in Boston it was 50 degrees when we left, and so it's not the Boston I grew up with. Things are changing all over the world today. Scottsdale is a wonderful place to go. If you have to work, it's about as good a place, I think, in wintertime as any.
Absolutely. Well, John, thank you very much for spending time talking about intent data and ABM.
Anytime.